So you're thinking of moving to Austin, Texas. Well, in today's video, we're actually going to be talking about a guy who moved his whole family to Austin from California, regretted it, and left. Let's go. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you're new. I hope y'all are having a beautiful day. It's Dominique here. I am a local realtor in the greater Austin area. I actually had somebody reach out recently who was looking at moving to Austin, and she said that she wasn't sure if I actually worked here. And I just want to let y'all know that yes, I work and live in the greater Austin area. I help clients throughout the city and surrounding areas of Austin, and I'm here to help you if you're looking to move to the area. So anyway, in today's video, we are gonna talk about this guy who moved to Austin and really regretted it, and years later ended up writing an op-ed for Business Insider about the experience of moving to the Austin area. Obviously, moving cross country is a big undertaking. There's a lot of moving parts, there's a lot to consider, and you wanna make sure that you're making the right decision, right? So I'm gonna go through this op-ed and just kind of look at the things that he points out and let y'all know what I think about each of the things. The article is titled, "I moved my family from California to Austin, Texas, and regretted it. Here are 10 things to consider before making an expensive mistake." Austin, like California, is not affordable. The thing that California and Austin definitely have in common is they're both expensive. Austin is not cheap. But they moved here in 2015, so that's been a while. So the fact that he said that it was expensive back then is interesting because it would have been a lot less than it is today. They moved from San Diego to Austin. In San Diego, they owned a 2,000 square foot house on 1/3 of an acre, and they were looking for a boost in lifestyle. For great schools, the southwest and northwest sectors of Austin are the main options. But the caveat is that Northwest Austin in Travis County has some of the most expensive real estate in Texas. And that is true. They bought a 4,000 square foot house in Bee Cave, an affluent suburb of Austin with great schools. We heard Austin was extremely hot, so we got a place with a pool, blah, 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 blah. The northwest part of Austin is gonna be one of the most expensive areas of Austin. There's a lot of pieces that you're gonna be looking at when you're looking at Austin. But yes, the northwest part of Austin is gonna be more expensive. When you go east, northeast, things are definitely more affordable, although East Austin, as I've mentioned in previous videos, has grown a lot over the last 10, 15 years. So while it used to be a lot more affordable, it has definitely seen a ton of growth, and with that, you know, the prices have gone up. It's just supply and demand. There's also been a lot of growth as far as businesses, restaurants, nightclubs, bars in the area in East Austin. So there's a lot more to do than there was, 10 years ago. So it's a super popular area. He kind of course, when you're coming after a whole city, you're gonna get a lot of pushback, a lot of hate from the city. So a lot of people pushed back and said, okay, you're wanting a lifestyle change. Why were you leaving California? What were the reasons? Because there's pros and cons to anything. I've visited California a ton. I think it's beautiful. I think it's lovely, but why did he decide to leave California for Texas? What specifically were they looking for? If they were looking for a boost in lifestyle, what were those lifestyle changes that they were looking for? He said they had a 2,000 square foot home and then moved to a 4,000 square foot home. That is a huge jump. And obviously, if he were looking closer into the city, he would have had to pay more money in order to get that much square footage. So he decided to move to Bee Cave. Bee Cave is a suburb of Austin. It's a small city located in Travis County. There's beautiful homes over there, but it's definitely more of a suburban lifestyle. There's not a ton to do. So if you're in Bee Cave, there is like the Hill Country Galleria. There are restaurants and things, but if you're wanting to do a lot more things in Austin, you're gonna have to make the drive into town, which it's depending on the time of day, it's about a 30 minute drive to downtown Austin. But it's gonna definitely be a different lifestyle than if you're living in downtown Austin, you know, or just closer into town. So I wonder what were their goals when they were initially considering moving to the area, because that's going to be a big piece that you want to consider when you're moving here. If you're just wanting a bigger house and you're okay with being further out, then great. But if you want to be, you know, in downtown Austin, or you want to be, you know, closer in like Westlake or Tarrytown or any of these popular neighborhoods that are really more central and more connected to town, then that's a different lifestyle. So that's one big piece that I would ask him. What were you initially looking for, and why did you decide on Bee Cave? Why did you decide on the larger house in Bee Cave? You know, and then, you know, you weren't happy with it. One of the things that he cites as, you know, surprising is how expensive it is, especially for utilities. So he talks about electricity and water and how much more expensive it is, you know, in Texas versus California. And he said that he only kept his thermostat on 79 during the summer and 65 in the winter, and that would cost them between $700 and $1,000 a month. And that doesn't sound completely off. It really depends on the house, but 4,000 square feet is a huge house. And actually, I looked at the rates, and our kilowatt per hour in Texas is lower than California, but because of how hot it gets here, you do have to use the electricity a lot more than you use it in California. You know, I've mentioned in previous videos, you know, we had a string of over 100-degree weather, you know, last summer, the previous summer, and things are just getting hotter on average, so that doesn't seem like something that's gonna change. One of the things that you do wanna look at when you're considering a house is if it is newer construction, then usually your electric isn't gonna be as bad. Of course, if there's things like solar panels, then that helps as well. I have some clients who bought with solar panels that were paid off. They didn't have to pay additionally for them. And their bill is like $20 a month. It just, you know, offsets that cost. So, you know, that's something to consider. But when you are considering solar panels, you do want to make sure that you're not taking over a lease and that the solar panels are paid off, or that the seller is going to pay them off before closing, because otherwise you'll be responsible for that bill. So one important thing to look at. The other thing that he talks about is how expensive water is compared to California, and he's saying that they would be spending $300 to $400 a month on water. Now, so he's saying that their lot, you know, it had new sod, so they had to water it. And so it was like $1,200 a month. Now that is completely crazy. I mean, if I got a $1,200 water bill, I would pass out. You know, that's definitely not the norm. And I do think that more builders, and hopefully down the line, they'll start building with more sustainable lawns. But if he had a really huge lawn and then is purchasing in a time where he's gonna have to water it because there's not a lot of rain going on, then it definitely is gonna get expensive. Sustainable landscapers encourage planting something more like a buffalo grass, or like something mixed with buffalo grass and other grasses like that that don't require as much water as, like, say a fescue or a Bermuda grass, or, you know, St. Augustine, which requires a lot of water but is actually very common for our area. Not in new construction, but I just mean regionally. So, I mean, yeah, it's definitely something to consider depending on the size of the yard that you're getting, and something that you want to consider when you're looking at new construction versus like a resale home that already has established grass. You know, there's pros and cons to everything. There's pros and cons to new construction. There's pros and cons to resale homes. So you want to look at all of those factors and what your actual cost per month is going to be, what your carrying costs are going to be, you know, your utilities, your mortgage, your taxes, your insurance, and then of course the maintenance of the property. What are you going to be looking at? That's something you want to look at, all of that when you're considering whether or not to invest in a home. Another thing he cites as being really expensive is the services in the area. He says things like pool maintenance, landscaping services, expensive home repairs, expensive dining and movies. And I tend to agree with him. I mean, I don't have anything to compare it to, as I've never lived in California, but if you are outsourcing everything in your life, then things are gonna get expensive really quickly. One of the benefits of obviously living in an area for a while is that you have a community, you have people who you can trust, where you can get referrals from. he also cites in regards to the service industry that there's a lot of dishonesty when he compared Austin to California in I guess companies and service people. Let's see. He said, sure, there are bad apples, but by and large, integrity is the default way to treat people here. It's not something we think about, not so in Austin. I mean, that sounds crazy. Let's see. First, we bought the people we bought the home from. They lied about the cause of a leak. Then they hired a guy with a 5-star rating on Yelp to pull up flooded carpet, who basically left them high and dry. They haven't heard back from him. So, I mean, that is, I don't know, I think an oversimplification, generalization. I mean, I do know that it can be hard to find good service people in town. You know, that's why having a network of people, having community, is so important, because, you know, you just have friends and family who have worked with others. Now, of course, if you're moving to the area and you don't know anybody, that's harder. Obviously, I've worked with a lot of vendors over the years in real estate, and then when I worked in property management. So if you ever have any questions about vendors or need, or, you know, a recommendation, let me know. I don't know, that's a big generalization to say about the whole city, but I will say with the number of people that are moving here, it is gonna be harder to get a contractor just to come and look at a project because of supply and demand, because more people are looking for services, especially after 2020. You know, everybody was at home looking at projects that they wanted to get done, and so they started calling, you know, handymen, and then I guess I already addressed the fact of him mentioning how expensive it is for all of these different services. And, you know, if you're outsourcing your lawn, if you're outsourcing having somebody clean your house, if you're never cooking inside your home, I mean, yes, all of these things are gonna be very expensive. If you are hiring out everything for your home repairs, you don't wanna change a light bulb, you don't wanna change a smoke detector battery, all of these things add up. So it's beneficial to learn how to do things. Obviously, you can't do that in all cases, but especially now, I mean, as I mentioned, he wrote this a while back, but with inflation, I mean, prices are up across the board at the grocery store, across the nation. You know, it's not just an Austin thing. Everything is more expensive. When we go to eat, I'm like, unless you go to a fast food place, there's no like $20, $30 meal anymore. We go to just a local restaurant, nothing fancy, for like Mexican food. It's easily $50 out the door every time. It's just not how it used to be. Prices are up everywhere across the board. So that piece is definitely true. Okay, the next thing that he has on the list is the weather. And we've talked about weather in previous videos. He says, sure, you've heard it's hot and humid, but how bad could it be? It's just weather, right? Wrong. First of all, Austin is wet, gets almost 90% as much rain as Portland, Oregon. I find that very hard to believe. I'd have to look that up and see. There's mold, allergies, mosquitoes, water penetration, blah, 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 blah. Towels get mildewy. Austin is hot. It's not California hot, it's Texas hot. Yes, I mean, I totally agree. Austin is super hot. It's definitely not like California. You know, in California, it cools down in the evenings and you might need like a little sweater. In the summer in Texas, you know, like I said, we have sustained temperatures over 100 degrees for many days on end, you know, 50 plus, 53 plus days on end. Summer, I think we had one day that was 100, or a couple days that were like 107, super hot. And then it doesn't get that much colder or cooler in the evenings, you know, maybe into the 90s, the 80s. Yeah, I mean, it is a big difference. It's something that you want to take into account. Is that something that you want to deal with, or do you prefer California weather? California weather is beautiful. I love California. I love visiting California. I think it would be wonderful to live there, but it comes at a cost. The median sales price in Austin, which has actually gone down a little bit. If we look at December of 2023, the median sales price in Austin was $520,000. And if we look at San Diego, the median sales price was $872,000. So the fact that it's gonna take over $800,000 to even get close to being in a home in San Diego, that just leaves a whole sector of the market that can't invest in housing. It can't ever get into the real estate market. Just the barrier to entry that you're looking at in San Diego versus Austin is huge. Now, is Austin cheap? I wouldn't say that Austin is cheap anymore. When you compare it to the East Coast and the West Coast, we are still more affordable, definitely. But when you look at other cities in Texas, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, you know, all of these cities, you can get way more for your money in other cities. But the draw for Austin is the labor market here has been strong. It's been strong even when there were downturns in the market in 2008, 2009, Austin always fared well compared to the nation when looking at that. When you're looking at Austin compared to, you know, of course, California, we are, you know, definitely more flat because we're Texas, but there's beautiful hill country in the Austin area to enjoy. There is, you know, there are areas to do hiking and biking. We don't have any crazy national parks like Yosemite or quite amazing like that. We have Big Bend, which I think is particularly beautiful, even though it's, you know, desert. I think one of the draws to Austin is definitely how beautiful it is when you look at us compared to, say, a Dallas or a Houston. It's just way more beautiful here. There are hills, there is some charm to Austin. It's grown a lot, it's changed a lot, but there's just a heart to Austin that I think draws people in. This is really funny. He says, although we had a huge yard in our own half basketball court, we really only felt like going outside about 3 to 4 months of the year. The rest of the time it's too windy, too hot, too cold. This guy complains so much. I do not like it when people complain a lot. It kind of drives me nuts. And now I'm complaining about the complainer. But he's just not a very likable character, or he doesn't seem like it from this article. But it just seems a little pretentious. You have a huge yard, a half basketball court, and you're still not content in your house. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't feel bad for you. I don't know. I mean, summer is long and it is hot, but I love spring, I love fall. I tolerate the summer. I'm a Texan, so I'm used to it. Last summer was particularly hot and I did get tired of it towards the end. I always look forward to fall though. But spring and fall are beautiful, and winter is such a short amount of time that just kind of feels like it's all connected. I feel like we had like a week where, a few weeks ago, where it got down to 20. That's too cold for me. I don't like that at all. But it's such a quick little winter, and now we're already, you know, it feels like springtime. One other brief complaint that he has is travel. Anyone who can leaves Austin for a month or two during the summer to escape the heat. That's expensive, since to get anywhere interesting involves flying and hotel stays. I get it. When you're looking at California and, you know, you can go to Yosemite, you can go skiing in Lake Tahoe, you can go, you know, there's just so much to do so close. You can go to the beach and enjoy it. Although I do not like to swim in the Pacific. It is way too cold for me. I'm used to my hot Gulf of Mexico water, although it's not very beautiful, but I grew up in it, and so I knew nothing else, and so I always thought it was beautiful. Of course, now that we've traveled, I recognize that there's more beautiful beaches, and California beaches are beautiful, but I don't enjoy the water. That's a bit too rough for me and too cold. But yeah, I get that. I mean, Texas is a huge state. It takes forever just to get out of Texas if you're gonna take a road trip. It's funny, my husband loves road trips. Like, he wants to go, we're gonna go to Colorado in a couple months, and he wants to drive, and I'm like, we could just get a cheap flight to go to Colorado, but he loves road trips. I'm like, you have to pick your battles, right? Yeah, I mean, I get that. It's, you know, long drives to get anywhere. I mean, if you're gonna go, you know, to Big Bend, it takes forever to get there. Marfa's super cute if you wanna, we've done a trip over to the Big Bend, and we stayed in Marfa for, I think, a night. It's so cute. It's very small, but it kind of has gotten overrun by Instagrammers, but it's a cute little town. There's also Fredericksburg, which I love, which is Texas wine country. Now, it's definitely not gonna be like a Sonoma or a Napa. You know, they've been in the game a lot longer, and obviously the climate is much different, but Fredericksburg is so fun. It's so cute. I would prefer, we went last year in January and the weather was perfect. So I would say, yeah, like springtime, fall, summer is way too hot to be out there. Although, I mean, people go, but actually we also went, sorry, I forgot. We went last January, and then my husband and I went for our anniversary I think we went in October, I don't remember, but it was perfect weather. They were doing like, you know, kind of Oktoberfest, and it was super fun. Weather was beautiful. It was before it started getting cold and it wasn't as hot anymore, as oppressive. So, but Fredericksburg's super fun. I mean, there's stuff to go to in Texas. San Antonio, I haven't gone in a while to hang out, but the Riverwalk's over there. You know, there's the San Antonio Zoo. I mean, there's things to go to in Texas. It's just, obviously it's not these like amazing like national parks like you have a stone's throw away in California. I will say that the tickets to Cancun are super cheap. So if you want to take a short, quick trip to Mexico, that's always fun and affordable with the all-inclusive resorts and everything over there. The next thing on his list that he has is no public land. Think about public land much? Yeah, me neither. On the West Coast, we take public land for granted. Soaring Sierra Nevada, sandy beaches, public space canyons, trails along creeks, not to mention Yosemite, not so in Texas. Even though Austin's supposed to be outdoorsy, there are very few places to go. They went, he cites that they went to Enchanted Rock and there was a super long wait. I haven't been to Enchanted Rock in forever, probably like 16 years. I don't know, I mean, I feel like there's a lot to do in Austin. You know, obviously there's not a beach here, but there's Lake Travis, although there's no water in it right now. Lake Austin is different from Lake Travis. It has a constant level at all times because of the dam system that they have. Town Lake or Lady Bird Lake, which is called, this is all the Colorado River. It all feeds to through to each other. Now, of course, if he's comparing California, I'm just trying to think in the way that he does, you know, he's probably thinking, well, even though there's hiking, you can do it less because it's so hot in the summer, so you can't go when it's super hot. Maybe that's what he's thinking, but I do feel like it's still very beautiful here and there's a lot to do. There are a lot of outdoorsy activities in Austin as compared to other cities in Texas, which definitely draws in people, not only moving here, but just people visiting, just tourists. Also, I know that there are lines getting into the national parks in California. We've experienced them before. So, you know, I don't really know if it was poor planning on his part going to Enchanted Rock, or it was just like a holiday weekend. Because of course, if it's a holiday weekend, then things are gonna be way busier than on a normal weekend. You know, so kind of pre-planning and looking at those things is definitely important. Also, if it's a time of year when there's just a ton more people, like around, you know, ACL or South by Southwest, and there's a lot more people in town, you want to take that into account for any event or outdoor space activity that you're trying to go to. Okay, this was just a small blip in the article, but he said Yelp. He said, yes, there's good food in Austin, but you can't trust Yelp to find it. This is kind of random in this whole article. We drove 40 minutes for good Southern Indian food. It was one of the worst service experiences of my life. In general, you couldn't trust Yelp as much, which was disconcerting. Like I mentioned, this was a while back, but I feel like I never look at Yelp. I don't know if other people do now. I'm always looking at Google reviews, so I just really don't. You know, actually, I feel like my husband has gotten me into looking at reviews. I never used to look at reviews. I would just try things, movies, you know, no matter what. I was just, okay, here's a restaurant, it looks cute. Usually I look more at the atmosphere. That's just my personality because I like to feel good when I'm at a place. But obviously that doesn't always translate to the best food. But anyway, that was just a small little thing. So I guess if you look at Yelp a lot, which I don't feel like it's that popular anymore, don't look at Yelp. I would look at Google reviews for anything that you're looking up. Okay, the other thing that he has on here, which I was really surprised to see, is rudeness. He says, I'll probably take the most heat for this one, but Austinites are rude. I'm so surprised to hear this. I feel like everybody that I meet that is either visiting or moves here always comment on how nice people are. This is not to throw shade to people moving from elsewhere, but obviously we've had an influx of people over the last 20 years. And so it is a big mix of people and cultures now. And he even makes a note that Austin drivers are really bad, which I think I've noted in one of my other videos. I think just as more people move here, everything just gets more crowded. So if you're going to a restaurant, I mean, I went to a restaurant a couple weekends ago with a girlfriend of mine actually in Georgetown, which is a small suburb north of Austin. It's so cute. They have the cutest town square. You have to check it out if you're ever here. It's adorable. And they also allow, it's open container. So there's like wineries and you can just walk around the square with your glass of wine and be all happy. Anyhow, yeah, we went to this restaurant and it was like a 40-minute wait for brunch. And I was like, and they didn't accept reservations. I checked before. So, you know, I understand like that kind of stinks when in a small town, but there's just so much growth. People are moving here. Georgetown is one of the fastest growing small little towns in the nation, just like Leander is one of the fastest growing. You know, there's just all of these suburbs that have seen an incredible amount of growth. And so with that, you know, it's just getting more crowded. People get impatient. Like I could see that happening, but overall, I feel like people here are generally nice. You know, and open. Every once in a while you'll encounter, you know, somebody that is grumpy or just a jerk. But I don't know, overall I feel like people are really nice here. He did note this one thing. He said Exhibit A was a dad flag football league wearing the Don't Move to Austin t-shirt, a play on Don't Mess with Texas. It's not even funny at all. I feel like he needs a sense of humor. Would I wear a shirt that says don't move to Austin? No, I wouldn't wear a shirt like that. But like, why are you letting these little things bother you? I mean, maybe that guy's not gonna be your best friend, you know? Or maybe he actually has a funny sense of humor and you could be like, haha, I did move here, what are you gonna do now? You know, I don't know, why are you gonna take things so personally? And I don't know. And then he talks about how Austin drivers are terrible. They may be conservative, but not with their horns. I don't know, I've talked in other videos and I kind of agree with him. I feel like drivers used to be a lot nicer, but like I said, with more people moving here, it just gets more and more congested. People get more impatient on the roads and less nice. And so I think he's pretty right. And like I said, this was a while back, so things are just getting worse. Then he also makes a note about the service industry and just saying how he's received some of the worst service he's ever experienced nationwide, and kind of cites some anecdotal stories about the worst service. Having visited California a lot, I don't remember ever receiving like over-the-top incredible customer service there. Like it didn't stand out to me as being bad or good, you know? So I don't know, I think these are just like anecdotal stories. He happened to encounter somebody that was, I mean, I've definitely experienced, you know, not having the best waiter or waitress or, you know, whatever. But the next thing on his list is not quite a conservative utopia. If you ask people from other parts of Texas, they'll say that Austin is not representative of all of Texas. That is true. Yes, that's very true. There is definitely a mix here in Austin, as compared to like rural areas of Texas, of course. He states that despite the fact that Texas leads the nation in natural gas, they don't mandate that modern utilities be run to these new developments. And, you know, he cites an issue with a developer. I mean, one thing that what he's citing is true. There's a community that the residents were suing the developer. In the Austin area, it is not as typical now for homes to be built with gas. It's definitely more common for them to be built with electric. So if that's something that's important to you, then you definitely want to let your realtor know once you're searching. Section that he talks about is there's also little public school choice. In California, there are charter schools, two-day schools, public schools, homeschooling, you name it. As I mentioned, this article is kind of old. I'm surprised by this because I've always known about charter schools, but definitely after 2020, charter schools have been growing, and especially micro schools. A ton of micro schools opened up during 2020. A ton of micro schools opened up in 2020 because obviously everybody was home. Parents were trying to teach their kids, or they were doing virtual learning and going a little bit crazy. And so, you know, all of these schools were popping up to try to help meet the needs of families across Texas. So there's a lot more charter schools. There's Harmony charter schools, there's Meridian, there's Basis that opened up. I mean, there are a ton all over the greater Austin area, there's Idea schools, depending on where you are. There are definitely like hybrid schools that do like either 2 or 3 days during the week, and then the other time the other part of the week you're homeschooling. So anyway, I just have to disagree with him on this point because I feel like there are a lot of options. And I can give you resources so that you can research specific schools if school districts are important to you. You know, just because it's a charter school doesn't always mean that it's the greatest, and just because a school is actually rated really high doesn't mean it may meet the needs of your child. So anyway, it's always good to do some research ahead of time. The next thing on his list is monoculture. He says he loves meeting people from all cultures. In California, we've had Vietnamese neighbors, Iranian neighbors, Filipinos, Palestinians, you name it, we love it. In parts of Texas, it's not just a monoculture, but a monoculture that doesn't seem to be aware of its own blandness. Okay, let's see. So what I'm looking at, this is from the Los Angeles Times. This is posted in December of 2023. Latinos make up the largest group in both states, a little over 40% of the population in each, according to the most recent census. Non-Latino white residents are a minority in both states, 34.7% of the population in California and 39.8% in Texas. So, sounds like we're very alike, Mr. Brett. I don't know, maybe he was like in a little bubble and he didn't get out of that bubble and meet other people. Obviously, there's definitely more diverse areas across the nation, for sure. It's strange that he feels like we're not as diverse as California when, if you look at the census, we're very much alike. The next thing he complains about are punitive militaristic schools and sports. Some of the teachers were excellent, but the school was run like a micromanaged military academy. You know, I don't think any school is perfect. We've done charter school, we've done public school, and there's pros and cons to each, and so each year we'll evaluate how things are going, if we still like the school or if we need to make an adjustment. But for the most part, we've been really happy with our public school. We were happy with our charter school until we weren't. And, you know, I'm, you know, pretty involved with, you know, and always in communication with my son's teachers and with the administration if something arises that where it's appropriate to speak with them. Are you ready to have your son judged based on his suitability for a future career in football? Are you ready to network by attending the local high school football game with the guys? Because that's a thing in Texas. We have our son in sports, and I played sports when I was little. My husband played a little bit, but he wasn't like really into sports once he got, you know, into middle and high school. So my son plays basketball a little bit and baseball. But yeah, I mean, it is Texas. The football culture is huge here. I don't watch football. If I go to a football game, I'm going to eat. I'm going to watch the halftime show for the Super Bowl. That's about it. Yeah, it's definitely big here. It's a big, huge thing. I have a lot of, you know, family who are really into sports. But I mean, I have great friends who our lives are not centered around sports. So I think he just didn't find his community, because there's all kinds of people here. Yes, of course, I mean, I have a lot of friends who their kids are like die-hard sports. Like they're gonna try to go into, you know, to be a professional baseball player and all of this stuff. I don't think that's, my son is really into art and music and other things. So we're kind of just putting him to things to see what interests him. Now sports, I think even if you're not really like super into it and you want them to continue into college and everything, for me, having an only child, I think it's important for them to be able to develop, you know, just skills to work with other children, to develop teamwork, to learn how to lose, to understand that the world doesn't revolve around you. And there's so many good things that come out of sports. And so that's great. We've also met wonderful families, wonderful friends who, you know, I hope we'll be friends with for years to come, and just other influences in my son's life that I think are good. So it's not just me, you know, trying to instill, you know, discipline or teaching things. It's like a community effort. So I think sports are really good as long as you don't get like too crazy about it. Okay, and then number 10, he cites cedar allergies, which I have talked about in previous videos. He said there's a good chance you'll be sick the whole first year in Austin, being exposed to a new set of pathogens. We were, and it's not uncommon. Then we heard that after a few years, it's also common to develop cedar allergies. Oh, I see what he's saying. Yes, because I didn't have allergies for like 5+ years. I had lived here like 5+ years, and then I developed cedar allergies, which is so weird. Why does that happen? But yes, if you look at Like I've talked about the cedar allergies in videos. You'll see when this is the time of year, I'm taking my Nasonex, I'm doing my allergy pills. It used to hit me a lot harder, but I feel like I've gotten better over the years. But yeah, you can see the pollen coming out of the trees across the skyline of Austin and surrounding areas. It's pretty crazy, but yeah, it is bad. I have a friend who they live, which we have a lot of trees and we have like land behind us, more land behind us. But we have a friend who lives on a green belt, and every time I go there, they have a beautiful house. Specifically, it was like, I think it was like in the fall, so the weather was nicer, and so they had the windows open and the back door open, and I just die sneezing immediately when I get there. I'm like, oh my gosh, like they just have a lot of cedar trees behind their property. So yeah, cedar allergies are definitely a thing. It's definitely something that you want to be aware of. It says allergy treatment centers are very common. Yeah, that's all true. Cedar allergies are the worst, and I have them, and I don't love them. And then the last thing that he has on his list, he says, number 11, I couldn't stop at 10. And this one makes me laugh. He says, big luxury home obsession. I'm guessing because of the lack of public land, terrible weather, etc., Austinites get really into their houses. I find this paragraph so funny. This dude bought a 4,000 square foot house, and he's talking about how he can't stand that people obsess over their big luxury homes. He's just not in touch with reality. He said, we saw some unbelievably ornate homes, castle-esque. There's pressure to keep your house immaculate. You can buy a nice home in California, crown molding, only to find that everyone else's house is much nicer than yours, which we didn't care about until we found out that nobody wanted to buy our less than luxurious home. It sounds like at the end he had trouble selling their house. So I wonder when they were trying to sell. Obviously, when you're buying a house, one of the things that you want to look at, and one of the things I can help with, you know, if I were your realtor, is we always are going to look at comps to make sure, you know, we want to justify the price. So if there's a listing price, I'm always going to provide you with the most recent comps, and you want to look at no more than 60 days back. Sometimes you don't, or most of the times you don't have perfect comps, and you may have to go a little further out and then, you know, kind of do some comparing. We'll make adjustments, all of those things to determine if it's priced right, if it's not priced right, and then you decide what the home is worth to you and how much you want to offer. I don't determine how much you offer on a house. It's always you and what you feel comfortable with. So yeah, I mean, without knowing more information, I can't really speak to the last thing. It sounds like he had trouble selling his house because it didn't have a lot of other maybe interior upgrades or amenities that other nearby houses had. Yeah, I can't really speak to that without having more information on what their property was, how it was priced. You know, maybe he thought he could get a certain amount for it, but I wonder how long they lived here, because that also makes a difference. If he bought and then tried to sell a year later and is thinking that he wants to get a certain amount so that he can recoup some of that cost, except for in like, you know, 2020 and 2021 when we had 30-40% growth, you know, but a lot of the people then that were selling had been in their homes for a while and had established equity in their homes. So that's not even a great comparison. But yeah, without more information, I can't really compare. Okay, and then to sum up, he says, moral of the story, it would take a lot of money to buy a California-like lifestyle in Austin. If you're moving to Austin, make sure it's because of the things that it offers: downtown lifestyle, barbecue, football, live music, nice houses, professional opportunity, etc. And that you won't miss the good things that you're leaving behind. It was an expensive mistake, but my family and I now see California in a new light. We feel very fortunate to be living in the Bay Area. Oh, and it has, at the end, it says it was originally written in 2016. Yeah, so it's been a while. So a lot has changed, and a lot has changed in the Bay Area now from when he wrote this. I wonder if he still lives there and how he feels about it now, because so many more people have now moved to Austin from the Bay Area because it has changed so much over there. So that is very interesting. But I agree with his last sentence. I mean, you definitely want to, you know, really research the area. Anywhere you're moving, obviously, you know, come as many times as you can and stay as long as you can. You know, you really have to drill in on what your priorities are, what your pros and cons are, what your must-haves are, and kind of your wish list, like what your nice-to-haves are. And really determine like what is important to you. Why do you want to leave California? What are the cons? What are the pros? What are you giving up? And what are those things gonna look like in Austin? Do you wanna have walkability? Okay, well, you're not gonna move to Bee Cave like this guy did. You know, you wanna be closer into town. Schools are important. Okay, which schools? Let's get you some resources so that you can research the schools and what's important to you there. Are you open to charter schools? Okay, this is where you're at and this is how the lottery system works. You know, there's just a lot to dig into when you're considering a whole new area, you're considering moving cross country, moving your whole family. Of course, when people are moving here, you can't always come and stay for a long time. So that's what I'm here for. If you are thinking of moving to the greater Austin area, whether it's in the next 30 days or you're just trying to set up a plan, you know, definitely reach out. I'm always here to be a resource. One of the things that I always do is, you know, take video tours, just like YouTube, of homes and specifically neighborhoods, because Google is great, but things are always changing, and so it's really good to get a feel of the actual neighborhood that you're looking at, what's nearby. Well guys, thank you again so much for watching today. I hope that this video was helpful to you. I know it was a lot of information, as always. I thought it was a fun one to just kind of dissect what this guy said about Austin. Okay guys, thanks again so much for watching, and I will see y'all very soon in the next video. Bye.